Okay, good afternoon, friend. Steve Bannon here with Israeli News Live, and I have with me today Colonel Greg Rinchich with me, and of course the cat that's just seems to insist on being in this chair with me, no matter how many times I've thrown him off.
I think that's on me.
So it takes a feline day. Oh gosh, Brother Greg, thank you for joining us. I do want to mention real quick, though, those of you that are listening, Jody has created a GoFundMe for Brother Greg, and I'm going to put a link in the description for you at the end, just to help support the work that he does there, and of course his address as well. So. Anyway, Brother Greg, I appreciate you coming on. There is so much to talk about, and we normally go into every alien conspiracy that what they call them conspiracies. We know what the truth of it is. You know better than I do, but this whole thing about Charlie Kirk really has gripped the world, and I'll say right from the beginning, it is a tragedy. I believe in freedom of speech, and I don't. I know he is a staunch, or was a very staunch supporter of Israel, although he began to kind of what I would call step out of line. That I think that made some people a little nervous. Uh, but it seemed that the man was looking for the truth regardless, and I appreciate that about him. I really do, and our sincerest condolences to his wife, Erica, and their children. I mean, it's almost like Brother Greg. It's another John F. Kennedy, although I know he was not the president, and but it's another young man leaving his wife and two children behind, that had became very well known in the public eye. So thank you, Brother Greg, for joining me today.
Well, what really happened is now the work really begins because Charlie set the stage. And now that somebody killed him, imagine how many people are going to get born again now.
Well, that could be a wonderful thing, and I know when I listened to his wife give a speech today, that was very courageous of her to come out and speak.
He was strong.
She was, and you know what was really, I think, the most beautiful part about her message that she shared today, besides her love for her husband and that she
Yeah.
had vowed to continue that work, but boy, she really lifted up Jesus Christ the entire time. I was just really amazed by that, and she talked about, Charlie's love of Christ. And I have to be quite honest, I had never really caught, I know that our son did, but I had never really caught Charlie's work before. And, you know, and maybe in one way that could be good because I had already come out of Zionism, and so I was very frustrated with the things being Jewish, and then seeing all the evils that are going on in the world. And Charlie was still kind of like I was in the early days when I began to wake up to these things. I caught it back during the Syrian war, which actually one of the influencers besides Aaron Erdem, who is a parliament member in Turkey, that woke me up to that on the sarin gas issue. The other was Seymour Hersh, the very well-known journalist that has probably some of the best connections in the world and really has exposed a lot of things. And oddly enough, Seymour Hersh and I have been corresponding a little bit, not very much, but a little bit, back and forth in email. That was unexpected. I just wrote him randomly one day. I invited him on Israeli News Live, and it's kind of cute. His first response, Brother Greg, was Israeli News Live. He said, "Now, don't you think that would be just a little bit of conflict of interest?" Oh, so I wrote him back and I said, "Well, I guess maybe you need to look a little closer at what I stand for." I said, "Because it's your work that has really impacted me a lot as well." And But he said something, Brother Greg, and we're going to go into this. We're going to get into a couple of things. I don't know if you know this, but there's a new alleged drone strike on Poland. I got that from my FEMA engineer recently. So I want to talk about that. We're going to get back to Charlie Kirk here, and I'm going to shut up so you can talk, though. But let me ask you some questions real quick, straight up first, Brother Greg.
Okay.
You were a sniper. You have, and I know it's something that concerns you because of being a Christian now, but at the time, there were many, many people that succumb to your expertise as a professional. Uh, uh, I would call it an assassin. And
Yeah.
I worked with the CIA for several years. I was not the assassin, but I was the man that made sure he got in and out of places. But I was also trained very, very thoroughly. And what I saw in the Charlie Kirk's case, being that there's two different ideas, one being a sniper shooting from 200 yards, which is not a great distance. For an amateur, yes, it would be impossible practically, but for a person like yourself, it's nothing. I
Yeah.
know I was going to say my uncle, who is a former chief deputy and worked with the FBI, he still practices and he can put in the size of a half dollar at 1,000 yards every round that he shoots. Uh,
The best I ever did in yards, I did it with a 7 millimeter SCW, and this was at a target range while I was not working in the military or anything. This has just been a handful of years ago. I shot a 2.81 inch group for 3 shots in less than 30 seconds at
wow.
1,000.
Well, my uncle didn't do it on a time range. I guarantee you that. I always told him, I said, well, I think you're cheating because you're using a stock to sit the thing on. But he says, Steve, you don't shoot 1,000 yards without it sitting on something. So,
Yeah, you got to be real steady at 1,000 yards because 1/8 of an inch here is 60 feet there. Because
exactly.
people don't understand the bullet rises when it comes out of the gun. It rises and then it starts to fall. And 1,000 yards with a 338, I know the ballistics on it at 1,000 yards at Archer's 69 feet high to hit its target at 1,000 yards.
That's a lot like a 308. That's one of the rifles that I used, and like an AR-10.
Well, a
And
338 is a 7 millimeter Magnum necked up to a 33 caliber.
I have done an 8 millimeter Mauser, and now I was never, even though I did okay with long rifle, I was a master of arms of small arm fire, and of course, working with the people that I worked with, that's what we were trained with. Some of the craziest things you could imagine, Brother Greg. And in fact, but before we even get into that aspect, what I'd like to ask you about this young man that allegedly that they have in custody, they believe that he is the guy that actually shot Charlie. Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say he were to really be the guy. Naturally, crawling up on the roof, like to me, which is nothing but amateur. A sniper to me is not going to crawl out on an open roof.
No,
So
you get made too easy.
exactly. And he was, there's some guy filming him on a phone. He said, hey, there's a guy up on the roof there. I don't know if anybody's noticing that, but he's crawling around on the roof in all black. So uh, voice to skull technology, though, Brother Greg, came to mind. But I want to ask you too, just as a sniper point, 200 yards, you've got this covering that keeps Charlie's, he's underneath this canvas. We can tell from the side view of it, he's about halfway back. If that guy's on a second story, naturally, he's definitely not going to see his head. I don't even know, Brother Greg, if he would be able to see the guy's neck. Maybe at 200
No,
yards for sure.
I got a big question about that. I told my friend I just don't think it was on from the top of the building, and I still don't because with the trajectory of the bullet and where it hit, and if you see it when it impacted, the way it pushed him up, it was down from below. It was down pretty level.
All right.
So
That
you
okay.
know,
So that, and then the other thing is uh, with let's say an well, even with a professional, you don't even need a spotter at 200 yards. Am I correct on that?
actually 300.
Okay, it's 300 yards. Okay, I didn't know that. 300 yards. So, but I mean, that's getting to be a pretty good shot. I know when I hunted and stuff, I've dropped many a deer at close to, not many at 300, many of them at 150, 200 yards, and I always hit the heart. I was very accurate with that. And,
Right.
but that's different. But now let me ask you this though. You're mentioning that you feel like that this was definitely not done at that elevated range there. Um, if indeed, let's say the guy was a patsy, we got voice to skull technology. How familiar are you with that, Brother Greg?
I don't know what that is.
That Dr. Robert Duncan's the one that I mean, I knew about it from Intel circles, going back to um, the the oh God, what do you call it there? Over in Egypt when they had the Arab Spring. I remember being told that that was the voice of skull technology that was used on that guy there. They basically, and they can do this literally from across the country, according to Dr. Robert Duncan, who is actually part of the developers for that. He said that they had developed this technology. They used it during the Gulf War. He said we were able to produce in the brains of these people. He said you could put your fingers in your ear and you're not going to stop the voice from coming. But he said we had a voice that said, "This is Allah. Lay down your arms and surrender." And they actually got an entire group of men to lay down their arms and surrender as a result of that. But Dr. Duncan said that they can also put it in your head to kill yourself. They can put it in your head to kill someone else. And he said you'll actually follow that. But he mentions too how they target individuals that are already on that edge. And I assume in that case there, Brother Greg, is like whether they're watching their social media accounts, they see which way they kind of lean. And I kind of figured this guy here was kind of picked that way. Dr. Duncan spoke about one of the shootings at a school in Florida, and he wouldn't say it outright, but he alluded to that being a voice to skull technology that was used on the young man that was accused of it. So he did show up with a gun, but according to the teacher, there was more than one shooter, and it wasn't the kid that was pulling the trigger, allegedly. So if that were to be the case, and I know you've probably had a chance to review some of the footage. What else might be a likely possibility, in your opinion?
Well, and now that the military's training snipers now, you know that it's not advantageous to take headshots anymore, number one, because they said a chest shot is better because the soldier, when he does headshots, it's so traumatic, it gives him PTSD. So they're training them now not to do headshots because they're harder to hit and it creates PTSD. And so, they're wanting to do chest shots. Well, this guy here was an amateur by every shape and reason. First thing I'd like to say is what a great loss.
Yes.
Charlie was a great loss, but, he was martyred. And his wife even said that he was a martyr.
Yep.
And he's under the throne of God, where it says the saints that were martyred or cry out and ask when are they going to get their vengeance back.
Yes.
I think he's under the throne of God because they, the devil played his cards bad on that one because Charlie's legacy and his wife is going to make him even stronger than he was when he was here. And so I just wanted to say that because it's really a tragic story. He was such a good guy.
It is, Brother Greg, and he's so young. Um,
31.
with such a young family. Young man had his whole life ahead of him. And no doubt he was not anticipating this to come. Um,
No,
you
he
know,
was consummate.
so yeah, I commend his courage for him. He stood up about October the 7th in Israel. He stood up about the Epstein scandal. Uh, even though he was a staunch supporter of Israel and he very staunch supporter of President Trump. But yet at the same time, he was really beginning to push on some of these issues that really mattered to him. And he actually mentions, he says, well, think about it. He said, we stood up about, and we'll just call it the scandal of, what is it, 19, 20, 2021 there. He stood up to that scandal there that happened in the nation. And he said, and he brings us up. He said, look, he said, we questioned those things. We questioned 9/11. He said, why are we not questioning some of the most obvious things? And Charlie was on actually with Patrick David there, and on his broadcast, I think he shot Patrick, quite frankly, when he says it. But he goes, "Look," he said, "what about October the 7th?" He said, "Do you not realize?" He said, "They were almost to a civil war in this nation." He said, because Netanyahu came out with these judicial reforms, which basically suspended the Constitution, and they were doing away with the Supreme Court. And he says, and then suddenly he said, a country that is, he said, practically a military state. He said, everybody's in the military there. Well, it's true. Everybody that's not religious is in the military, or at least has had to serve at least 3 years, right? And he said, I've even flown in a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to Gaza one time. He says, it's a 45-minute ride. And he says, and yet you tell me this is being streamed live, that they were dying, and it took Israel more than 6 hours to get there. He said, that's a stand down order.
Yeah, he knew, Charlie knew what he was talking about. That's for sure. His thing says that we all die when we stop asking.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
People that don't question what they think is wrong, you're dead already, really, in spirit. Because um, he was just, and the bravery that he showed was unbelievable.
It is, and no doubt about it. And I know his wife Erica. She really commended and give a special thanks to Vice President
Oh, you
Vance.
know him?
No, I don't know her, but I was just listening to her give this,
Oh,
what you heard today as well, her speech there, and she really thanked Ursula, right, his vice president's wife, for just the kindness that they showed with his death there. So, but at any rate, with all these things going on, it just shows. Brother Greg, we're just in some really, really critical times. But one thing that came to my mind almost immediately when this was happening, though, is what else is happening? Because you know how it is, Brother Greg. Normally, when something tragic like this happens that grips the nation, something else somewhere in the world is exploding very rapidly, and it's happening, and they're using the momentum when everybody is pretty much asleep and not paying attention to what's going on. Um, and one of the first things that has caught my attention, it was mainly because it's been given to me again, is that now Russia suddenly is back in the spotlight. And they're saying that there are more drones coming into Poland. I just got the message recently. My female friend contacted me by phone and said, you definitely need to take a look at this. Now, I was seeing also that some of these drones were coming in from Ukraine and not from Russia. So the question is, and I know that we have the technology too, to where we can get a hold of these drones and we could divert them, send them wherever you want to send
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Do
You
you?
know how to work, don't you? They put in a card, and then they put in the coordinates where they want it to go, and it punches holes in that card, and they slip it inside of the drone, and it gives it all the coordinates. But you told me the other day that you thought it was a lie.
I think that what I have a feeling of on this, but of course, we have family that lives there in Slovakia and also in the Czech Republic. And according to what they're saying, they said that the Polish minister has actually played it down as that this was nothing intentional by Russia. But he said that there are NATO people that are trying their best to try to make it look like Russia is doing this intentionally. So
He doesn't want to mess with NATO. That just doesn't make sense. But I believe that probably is what's happening. You know, the way everybody's turning on each other here. they're trying to make their outcome be what they always predicted. They want the outcome to be what they want it to be, and it could be very well that Ukraine did this. I don't know.
Well, maybe not even Ukraine in that case. The question could be that we could actually argue that instead of it being Ukraine itself, it could be that there are NATO members that do have that greater technology that are doing this. I know that, like, for example, we know that Ukraine has never really had the ability to to do some of the things that they're doing inside of Russia without U.S. or other ally help. And so, what I was always hearing is that we would use third parties and even other nations to launch attacks on Russia or Russian territory, even so that we could be use deniability. So, what would be your thought on that?
It would be my thought on it. Well, what they're trying to do is create plausible deniability of an event that really happened. All you need is that 1/10 of 1% doubt in your mind to make you question the whole thing. You know,
Mm.
and and, and I think you're right. I think there's third parties involved in it, and I think it's deniability because by the time they find, it takes years afterwards. If it's a lie, it takes a while to prove it. You know. So yeah, I believe that you're exactly right.
Yeah, there're just some really strange things going on without any doubt whatsoever. With that being said, too, Brother Greg, what do you think about some of these stories that are coming out of Washington, D.C. right now? They're more and more they're having their live disclosures on aliens and things like that. Have you followed any of that information lately?
Yeah, I've been following it, and they basically, if you read between the lines, they basically disclose their entire thing. And I remember one time on your show, I said it won't be us that disclose it; it'll be them.
As far
You know,
as the entities, they're the ones that decide when and how that's going to be disclosed, correct?
yeah. And notice how they're still putting, like I was telling you, that 1/10 of a percent question and doubt in, and they've shown it so many times. That, like, first it was the drones, now it's not drones, now it's NHI, non-human intelligence, and it just they keep digging themselves a bit deeper hole. And I think it's going to be the UFOs are going to be the ones that disclose it to us. That'll be the shock. That's what's going to make people think that they're God when they find out that this really is real.
Mm.
And I also found out that the aliens, you know what they call us, don't you?
What's
Containers.
that's what the aliens call humans are containers.
Containers. Yep.
Is that because they believe that? Well, let me ask you this. I'll just ask you flat out. Why do they call us containers?
Because they think that, well, and they have been doing it. They've been putting we're containers for the Nephilim spirit, for evil spirits.
Okay, that
And it
was
makes
what
you
my
really
thought. Right, that was what my thought was going to be when you said that. Is that when they're looking at us as containers, it's more so because it's the body we live in.
right. And see, like Charlie Kirk, they couldn't use him as a container. He
Mm.
would have been the perfect one to be able to use, but they couldn't use him as a container, so he was useless to them. But he was a clear and present danger for the far left, who's trying to hide this UAP UFO thing. You know, they're already just blaming it on gun violence. No regard for Charlie. Let's scream gun violence and stuff. I mean, if you look at the far left, like AOC and all them, isn't it obvious that they were containers of something that was not good?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you what. Well, one
That's
thing.
what the
Go ahead,
the
Charlie.
LGBTQ people, they're all containers. They're containers of a spirit. That kind of spirit right there is hard to get out, you know. And Charlie was pulling them out of that. He had converts. I heard his wife last night. He had converts from every walk of life, and so they call us containers because that's what we are to them. If you haven't got Christ, the Holy Spirit, and and believe in God, you're just a container for an evil spirit. That's what you are. It's just waiting on its time to get you.
Yeah,
And
well,
more people are using Ouija boards and stuff. They're filling their containers up. You know,
yeah, well, that
we're
makes
just
more
containers.
sense. Yes, it definitely
Yeah,
makes more sense. That we are that that you're just constantly dealing with uh, to be used by because I mean it is said that the spirits of the Nephilim are the evil spirits that roam the earth to this day. So,
their children are
mm,
the Nephilim. The Nephilim's children are evil spirits.
right, right. So technically, we'd call them the Nephilim because there is a one letter difference in the way they spell that biblically, and the right pronunciation. The fallen ones would be called the Nephilim, and the children of the fallen spirits are called the Nephilim. That's one of the things that's rarely ever noticed about how that spelling goes there, but that's actually one of the little cues there that we actually can see like that. So I tell you what, it's just nuts what's going on in the world right now, and the it seems that the influence of evil is worse than it ever has been, and
Yeah.
you know, and
Um,
in every direction that you can even imagine. So you know, oh, Greg, by the way, what is this about Area 51? I've heard some people saying that Area 51 is being shut down. Is that true?
that's what I heard. And I heard it from people that worked there. So that they were they were trying to close it off to contain something. What they were trying to contain, I wasn't told, but it was to contain something. But then right after that, you know, and you never know, if it's true or not. If I was around Area 51 that I could see, I still wouldn't be allowed in there. They'd still try to kill me if I went through there. But you know, nobody's around. Nobody's saying anything any different. People that live in the area can look through binoculars and see if it's running or not. But what gets me is right after this announcement, a week later or so, the earth cracked and opened up there in Nevada.
Oh, that's right. You know what? Who was it? Was it you, Greg, or somebody else that told me that said that that may have been the main reason why
Yeah, it was
they
me. I
closed
told
that down? Yes, because what got out?
him. Excuse me. Right. What got out? What got out? And what were they trying to contain? Was it a biological disease or something, or what was it? You know, um, an entity? We don't know. But they were locking it down and told everybody to get out because they were trying to contain something. And that's what I heard from somebody that works there.
Wow.
And so, you know, um, I don't doubt what he's saying. I don't know if they've come back, and started back again. But right after that, the ground opened up in Nevada. I mean, cracked wide open.
And was it an earthquake or anything like
Yeah,
that, or
it was a real shallow 5.0, about maybe 2 kilometers. That's all it was about 2 kilometers deep. And but it's just funny how it came right after they announced that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm just trying to connect the dots here, and I'm like, okay, now first they're saying it was locked up because they were trying to contain something, and then and then I actually heard it on some show. I don't even know what it was. Don't even remember. I was probably half asleep. But a guy got on there and said that they were trying to contain something. So, but it didn't go up to Area 51, but it close. So I don't know. The tunnels run for people think they have just tunnel system there. It runs from one state to the next and from one base to the next, deep tunnel systems. So did they know that this earthquake was coming? Is that why they all ran? That's my question. Was this earthquake set up on purpose? I know that the one in the San Andreas Fault is going to be man-made. It's going to be set off on purpose. But then all of a sudden, things die down. It just kills me how, we're having this rash of earthquakes and volcano eruptions, and then all of a sudden, nobody's talking about it no more. And then something happens and makes them talk about it again. I believe a lot of it has to do with MK Ultra, a lot of it, and trying to control what people think. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yes. And the earthquake that they had there, do you remember what the seismic size of that was? I know that Area 51 was to the east of the epicenter of that quake.
Right. It was to the east of it, but it was a 5.0.
Five, okay, 5.0.
But the thing about it, it was only 2 kilometers deep. I mean, that's
That is
almost surface,
shallow. That is very
very
shallow.
shallow. So when you think about it, 2 kilometers deep, how deep do the bases run? Well, there's so many tunnels under it. I couldn't be honest and say, how deep they all are. The tunnel system is vast. So 2 kilometers sounds about how deep Area 51 was. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
got all these questions, and now everybody's being hush hush.
Well, gosh, what do you think then? When you've got this Jewish scholar that's on the History Channel quite a bit. His name is Ariel Tzadok. He
Yeah,
talks a lot about entities coming from within the earth. He says that they're the helpers of the Jewish people. And he even says they're reptilians. But he tells the
sure.
people, don't be afraid of them. What is your thoughts on something like that?
I think he's exactly right. Don't be afraid of them. And the Lord told us not to be afraid of them. They feed on fear. The scarier you are, the more they get to eat. In other words, it's like they're starving for this fear, and they feed on that. And the Lord told us not to be afraid of them. And that guy said, "Don't be afraid of them." And I'm not afraid of them. I don't like. In other words, I try to tell people. Let me put it in the words what I try to tell people is there's a difference between fear and being scared. Believe me.
Right.
Fear is flight. Fear is when you've been pushed to fight or flight. Being scared is worrying about it. And even when I was down there, did I worry about it? Yeah, I worried about it. I sure did. I seen it. I'd seen some of these entities. They were half man, half horse, and all this stuff. I don't want to see that coming up. And the reptilians, they can shape shift into a man at will. So there's a lot of people catching it on TV now. If you'll notice the eyes and everything that look at
Yes.
YouTube,
Yes.
they've been really catching a lot of them slipping. And they're people that you would never think would ever even be involved in something like that. So, when I tell people when you're in Walmart, you walk past 100 people, I guarantee you they walk past one.
What do
Guarantee it.
you think about in fact, there's a lady that's actually recently contacted me about breeding programs. What do you think about breeding programs?
Yeah, they have that because they they not only hate us, they want to be us. They want to be us. And so that's what all the all the abductions are about is manipulating DNA and using gene splicing. There's a name for that gene splicing, and I just can't get it in my head right now. Um, I can't get it in my head right now, but it's CRISPR.
Right?
It's gene splicing, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, were you ever aware of anything like that when you were involved in these things, of these alleged, uh, I call it alleged. Now, I do believe that the people are telling the truth. I don't think that they're faking it, where they're talking about this, uh, breeding program. And question being also is what group of aliens actually are more prominent in doing things like that?
You know, I used to think, well, I know the reptilians are the brains of the thing, and these breeding programs are happening. And but I was just too young and everything when I was down there and to understand that completely. But I know that they were doing it all the time, and you'd see hybrid people came out of these breeding programs that look just like humans almost. You see, almost. They want to create a human so that they can raise themselves above God and say, "We did it, dude." So they almost look human, but you can tell that they're not. And some of these things, where people's eyes are shifting, especially Hollywood. Hollywood is nothing but like you said one time, a den of, like God told the Pharisees they were a den of vipers. That's what Hollywood is, a den of vipers. And I think they're all reptilian. I think they're all involved in the reptilian agenda, all of them. I can't think of any that aren't. And somebody brought it to my attention the other day that every time somebody gets famous, from their beginning, did you notice they dye their hair blonde?
Never really thought about that, but
I didn't either until I heard it the other day, and they were showing them all, and they do. They dye their hair blonde. Well, that sounds like the Nordics, the Palladians.
yes, yes. Now, is it true that the Nordics or the Palladians, that they are, or the tall? Well, let me ask you: is there a difference between tall whites, Palladians, etc.?
No, though, yeah, there are taller ones, shorter ones, and this and that, but they all come from the same thing. And the women are actually beautiful, but they stink like burning, like rot. And the
And
reason they smell because they're dying.
now, is it a situation to where do the tall? Because at one point I'd heard that tall whites uh, do have a breeding program going on because they do not have a good success rate with producing children of their own. Is that true?
That's true. That's 100% true. They don't. They can't breed amongst each other. Now, some people say they can. They've been abducted. Where I was, I'm just telling you, I've never seen it happen.
Wow.
You
And
know, go ahead.
well, here the reason why there's so many questions about this because I am going to be doing an interview with a lady, and I had one before that I actually spoke to privately at great length that talked about these breeding type programs, and the whole thing when it comes to the different ones, I've heard different entities that do this, but I remember. I forget the guy's name right off the top of my head. I want to say his name was Charles, but he was the guy that worked Area 51 that talked about the tall whites. And he said how that they really like for people to know that they love their children. And but yet at the same time, I'd heard that tall whites have a difficulty with having children. That that is something that they had worked on. They said, but the difference though with tall whites is that if they abduct someone, they always return that person back. They never keep the people that they abduct. And I didn't know what you knew about those type things.
No, the bottom here was the contract is that they were allowed to abduct people as long as they brought them back, right? Well, they broke that contract immediately on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Um,
I mean, that's got to be
so,
scary to begin with. You say the tall whites, they do look very human, correct?
did what now?
The tall whites actually look more human,
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of them that look human, but I guess from being around so many that weren't, it's easy for me to tell.
right? And then, of course, and this is the same thing I'd heard before as well. Like what you had said, though, is that um, the smell that they put off. One guy actually said that they smell very much, even the tall whites, that they smell like an animal.
Yeah, they do. They smell awful, and some of them smell like they're rotting. And I asked the guy one time, "How come they're doing?" He said, "They're all dying. The Greys, the Reptilians, they're all dying because their time is short." So that's why Satan's in a rush to get all this stuff done. He's in a rush. He's you know, and George Soros has a lot to do with this too. This breeding program and stuff. And I don't know what kind of influence he's got as far as with the reptilians or the graves or what. But I know that he's highly, highly, deeply involved. And so, you know, you, the stories change every single day. Wow. They change every day. They change so much I almost can't keep up with it myself, Steve. Um, I'm just grateful, like you, that we have contact. Can you imagine not having none of the contacts we did and living in this day?
Oh my gosh, another thing that I heard about tall whites is that they actually anatomically they have two hearts and that they have a larger lung capacity than what a human has. So they say if a doctor were to like one ended up in an ER, but they look human, he said that's the one distinctive feature that's different about them that people would most surely find out very quick like is that although they might look human, there is that difference,
There is a difference. There's more paleness to the skin. Okay,
right?
so eyes is the other. Their eyes give them away quick, and right now, the reason the reason that we're having chemtrails and stuff is they're trying to terraform the earth and make us sick. They can't stay. They can't breathe in our air very long. They can't. They do breathe sulfur dioxide, which immediately kills us. Okay, what does a volcano produce? Sulfur dioxide. So you can probably put the two together on what's going on under the ground and causing these earthquakes to do that. I mean, these volcanoes to do that. And I think of the Bible when it talks about the pillars of smoke and fire and smoke, I think it's talking about volcanoes, not nuclear war.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
I
And
mean, include Russia, they want the United States, North Korea, China. They don't, they just want us dead so they can take the land. And the Bible talks about that. Mystery Babylon, you
right,
come to take our land and you come to take our children and our livestock. See, if they bomb us with nuclear bombs, it'll be too radiated to use. And they could use the neutron bomb, but still, there is radiation there, and I don't think any of them want to radiate the United States that want to take us. I think that they just want to take us. I mean, they want the land. They don't care about us. They want the land, and
Mm.
so that's why the radical left is fighting for the nonsense that they're fighting for because they know this. Trying to be part of the ones that these liars like North Korea and all them use. They're trying to use that so that they can say they think that the North Korea and them's going to let them live because they helped them out. No, they won't. But they just want to be the ones that get to live. And if they nuke the place, I mean, look at Chernobyl. You still can't go back there. And
Yes.
Fukushima in that area. It's got a 10,000 year half life, doesn't it? Plutonium and tritium.
Oh, yes. Oh,
It's got
yes.
a 10,000 year half life. And
Yep.
I'm really interested in did you hear about the Bulagu spear? Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't. They show it. It looks, they thought it was an orb, and this guy films it in Mexico. And it
Right?
made it all the way down to the ground. And he just went over there and picked it up.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
you didn't know about that?
No, I did not.
Oh, yeah, it's all over now, But he just went over and picked it up. The scientists have it now. They haven't cut into it, but it has no seams. It has hieroglyphic writing all over it that nobody ever seen before, and has no seams. It's on YouTube. Just go on.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yep, it, that's the spear. The guy just walked up to it and picked it up, and the remember Element 115 that Bob Lazar talks about.
Yes.
I think it has element 115 in it. Well, I didn't know this, but element 115 can a bowling ball size of it could run the United States for I can't remember how many months it would, but it only has a half life of a tenth of a second. So we've had the element 115, and the reason that Bob Lazar talks about it so much is because they're trying to get it to in a place where they can keep the half life going to use it for energy. But this guy films it coming out, going across the thing. Did you see the thing? You look at the film,
Yes, I am.
and it lands, and he just walks up to it, and picks it up. Well, they still don't know what it is. They've done X-rays and everything, and it's got all kinds of computer chips and stuff in it, and it's got a giant computer chip on the top, as you can see.
Good
So they don't
night.
know. They don't know what they've got. They have no idea what they've got. Still don't. So there's one mystery right there that's non-human intelligence. They said it was definitely not made by human hands, definitely. And I guess they're afraid to cut it open that it might explode. Who knows? But, I mean, what was its purpose? That's what I want to know. Was it like a spy drone for the alien demons?
Right?
Or Satan?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know. But I can't believe. I'm glad I got to tell you that. Yeah, that's really an ongoing story right there. They got top scientists in the whole world. Bob Lazar says he knows a little bit about it. That it's element 115 that made it sustain up there, and it's no matter what you do to it, torch, whatever, it doesn't never change the temperature of it, and it only weighs less than 5 pounds.
Good night. Some
Yeah,
crazy things. Crazy,
yeah,
crazy.
that would be great to get one of them guys on it. One of those scientists.
Oh my
We
gosh.
we could probably get it done if we put both of our contacts together. But that's something that when I seen it, I was like, I got to see it the day that it happened. On TV, it wasn't nothing secret, and I think it was in Colombia. Am I right?
Well, that's what I'm actually looking at a couple of different ones that they got going on.
Okay. So these things float down, and I mean they show the guy, they show it land, and they show the guy that found it just walked up to it, he watched it come all the way down and walked up to it and just picked it up. He just happened to, I think he was a farmer and was in his field watching, and he
Yeah, I
seen the
see it
sword come
right
out.
over a cornfield.
Yeah, and it was going slower and slower, and then it came down, down, and it came down real gently. And he thought, hmm. And so he just went over there and picked it up and he turned it in, you know. What is this?
Yeah, landed
Well,
right in his cornfield.
yeah.
Crazy.
Of course, I got to tell you, yeah, because you need to keep up on that because it changes every day what they're finding out about that thing.
Yeah, there's always something going on, something crazy all the time.
Yeah,
Yes, it
remember
wasn't
everything.
Columbia's, right? Where, like you said, is where it was at. So on September the 8th.
And so you remember when things used to change every few months and blah blah blah, and then it was every now it's every then it was every month. You know, something would change. Then it was every couple of weeks something now change. Now it changes. Then it was every day something changes, and now it's every hour.
Wow.
I mean, so if you think about it, God isn't speeding up time itself; He's speeding up the perception of time.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys real quick what Brother Greg is talking about. While we're right before we close here, let me just pull this off of here and let's go to this real quick. This is the or Brother Greg's talking about. Let me back it up. Right there over the guy's cornfield.
Yeah, it
Just
seems they call it a beluga or a bulago.
that's in
What's the
Colombia, South America.
yeah?
And there it goes, right down into this cornfield.
Are you watching it float down?
Yeah, I watched it go right down. And then it went back up. So I
Yeah,
guess
it goes back down.
till it finally land there.
And then the guy just walks up to it and picks it up.
That is nuts. Oh
So
my goodness.
we don't have time today, but I've got some other things about UFOs that people.
Well, we'll get back on here together before long and we'll discuss some more of these things.
Yeah, yeah, they filmed one that a big circular craft landed, and an alien comes out of it and goes into the woods, and then walks back in it, and then it takes off ever so slightly. But the
Yeah,
guy got close enough to
he
it,
had to go to the
he didn't even have
bathroom.
to do it. Huh?
He had to go to the bathrooms, what it was, and so he stopped to go to the bathroom and jumped back in the craft and took off.
Yeah, he did it nature's way, didn't he?
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, um, that really perplexed me when I seen that.
Wow, that is wild. That is so wild. Anyway,
And they've had it for this long, and they still, and the top scientists on the planet first. The Russians use everybody, or they don't care. They just want to know what it is. Nobody could figure it out. Nobody's ever seen that writing before. They don't even know what it says.
oh,
They don't know what it was here for. They don't know how it operates. And I think they're afraid to cut it open, but they use grinders and stuff on it, and it doesn't make no marks or anything, doesn't throw no sparks, nothing.
like an
It's
unearthly
crazy.
metal. Wow. Brother Greg, share with us your address for people, how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I want to tell everybody, pray for me. I'm fixing to possibly have my shoulders replaced.
Ooh,
They went that bad. Um, and
you're going to be the
I got to have,
bionic man.
yeah, I've got to have two more surgeries on my wrist and possibly one on my elbow. I got carpal tunnel syndrome from welding. And so, well, that's what I attribute it to because I wasn't a big rider. So, or type or so.
Yes.
Yeah, my address is it's Greg Rinchich. It's 325 Angora Drive, Bostic, North Carolina, 28018. And right now I'm really down. Um, I'm even a little bit worried about my finances and things. I'm just
What was your
down.
zip
Yeah, I
code
can't do
again?
everything.
What was the zip code again?
28018.
Got it. All right, Brother
I just
Greg.
I can't do anything right now. Nothing. My arms are in that bad a shape. My rotator cuffs are torn. My ball joints pinching a nerve in my leg, which is causing me to fall. I just can't do anything.
Goodness.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I have to live with it. I will, that whatever God decides to do with it, is the way it'll be. But right now, it's looking good.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, brother, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights with us today. And God bless you. And we'll put the address and the link in there as well. Jody did for you for people as well.
Okay.
So thank you so
Can
much,
you hang
brother.
out for a minute when you end it?
We sure will.